And the truth of the matter is, it's been like failure after failure after failure over the past 6 years. And I just decided that I'm just going to keep going like a psycho person.
You can't teach experience.
I didn't have any money. Let me tell you, we were broker than broke. 3 little children, barely paying the bills.
Ever wonder how those e-commerce brands you admire do it? How they know just the right message to send to the right people at the right time? Guess what? It's not experience. They have the right data and the right tools. They have Klaviyo. Klaviyo's data-driven marketing automation platform is sophisticated enough to power those legendary campaigns from the brands you admire, but they made it simple, easy, and fast enough for anyone to use. Klaviyo helps brands easily create personalized multi-channel marketing campaigns using your most powerful asset, your customers' data. Klaviyo integrates with all leading e-commerce platforms, helping you use your customer data in real time to send more relevant emails and SMS automations. Plus, building a marketing campaign is drag and drop easy. You can get started with your first campaign in under an hour and easily build from there with Klaviyo's best performing templates. Klaviyo gives you all the power of an enterprise marketing automation platform and none of the complexity, so you can compete with the big guys. No wonder more than 65,000 brands can't get enough. To get started with a free trial of Klaviyo, visit klaviyo.com/uncensored. That's KLAVIYO.com/uncensored.
You're listening to E-Commerce Uncensored with Kevin Manel and Jason Caruso.
Hey everyone, and thank you for joining us on another episode of E-Commerce Uncensored. My name is Kevin Manel, and I'm here with
Jason Caruso.
really great interview, really great story, really great lady today. We have Amanda Wittenborn on, and it's almost one of the best stories we've had, I think.
Definitely one of the top 1 or 2 for sure. I mean, if not right up there. I mean, she is like the stereotypical American dream.
Yeah, grind it out,
persistence,
patience, all those things.
Yeah, for all you entrepreneurs out there, you really want to listen to this.
Yeah. All right. So don't forget, you could text us, Q&A. We want to do the numbers 844-643-0745. Text us any question you may have, any comments you have about the podcast. We want to hear from you. Subscribe to the podcast and join our Facebook group, ecommerceuncensored.com/Facebook. Okay. Enjoy. Amanda Wittenborn. Hey, Amanda, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, so I've been reading up about you a little bit. I listened to another podcast you're on, and you have quite an interesting entrepreneurial journey you went through. Why don't you just give us a little bit of background, like where you came from and how you ended up where you are now?
Sure. So it started long ago when I had my first son, who recently just turned 16. So that's about how long all of this has taken. But I loved to throw themed birthday parties for him from his very first birthday. And I just created all of the different decorations for all his parties growing up. And, by about his 3rd birthday or so, friends would start asking me, where'd you get these cute party decorations? And I would tell them that I made them. And then they started asking me if I would make party decorations for them. And then one day, one of my friends said, well, you should sell these. And I thought, I do this for my kids. Nobody's going to buy this. But on a whim, one day I decided, okay, maybe I'll put some of them up for sale and just see what happens. And at the time, my business was more of a digital scrapbooking business. And so I had a website, but I sold digital scrapbooking supplies. And I started putting the party supplies up for sale. And very quickly, it was obvious that those were more popular and a bigger audience than digital scrapbooking supplies. And so I gradually just shifted into creating more party supplies and less digital scrapbooking, and it kind of grew from there. When I first started making party supplies, it was digital downloads. So you would go purchase, let's say it was a mini candy bar wrapper. You would go purchase the file, download it. You'd have to cut them out and then wrap your candy bars. And even invitations and thank you cards and stuff all were a digital download that a mom would have to print and cut and do all the work for. And just as time went on, I realized that moms are just too busy to be dealing with that kind of thing. And it was about 6 years ago that I shifted into selling physical products. So it took about 4 or 5 years of digital to shift into the physical. And the physical is where my business really started to take off.
So I just want to back up a little bit because you said something funny, not funny, but something that I think is probably one of the worst things to do when you're starting a business. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but everybody does it. In fact, Kevin and I are starting a new business as we speak, and we did it as well. And that is basically, we say, we'll start a business, and then like if people buy it, like I'll continue doing it. And if they don't, like they never buy it right away. like there's always crickets when you start a new business. So if people are listening and like, I'm going to start a new business and see if what happens, like that's like the worst thing to do, because it's not on the internet. It's not build it and they will come. It's build it. And then you got to start bringing them in, so to speak. So it's funny when I hear that, because it's like such a common thing, but it's really not the right way to go into it, because we work with a company right now that's approaching 10 upwards of $10 million a year, and their story is the same thing. Like, yeah, we built this product, and like we put this website up, and we're like, people are gonna just come and buy. Like nobody did. So just funny that it's like a common theme amongst people starting businesses, because really what they're doing is trying to talk themselves into doing it, because they don't have the confidence, and they don't want to fail, so they're trying to like create ways to prevent them from quote unquote failing, even though that's like the only way to do it. But it's just interesting. So I'm sure that was your experience as well, because I don't even have to know about your business that well. I just know that that's how it is with everybody.
Yeah, and I think it's the distinction is I didn't set out doing this to create some mega business. Like the intention back then was not, I really want to start a business, and what product can I sell, and how can I make this happen. That isn't how I started. I started as a stay-at-home mom who had a creative hobby and passion, who wanted to just make a little extra money. So it was kind of a, let me just see if anybody will buy this. Let me try it out and let me see, because I really didn't have anything to lose. There was no money invested, only my time in designing those products. And I where it is today, if you would have asked me back then if that's what I was setting out to create, I wouldn't have even told you it was possible.
And
That
that's
never
why you're
crossed my
successful
mind.
though, right? That's why you're successful, because you didn't go into it saying like, okay, here's my plan. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. This is like how it's going to go. And I'm going to make $1 million tomorrow. That's usually when it fails. It's when you do something because there's maybe you're calling, or you love it, or there's something, that those tend to be a little bit more successful, because there's no pressure of making the money.
For
You know what I
sure.
mean?
Yeah, and you
For
probably
sure.
had like everyone around the block, all your family members saying that they'd buy this for you, this from you. And oh, that's such a great idea. And I think so many people get caught up in that internal success, that they're like, oh my God, this is going to be a multi-million dollar business. This is a no-brainer that I'm going to start here. So like Jason said, is like that kind of like alleviates the pressure. Be like, this is just kind of like a fun thing to do. And it's cool that it kind of grew to what it is.
Yeah. But I'll also say I did not have everybody saying, oh, I'll buy it. In fact, none of my friends buy anything from me and never have. I mean,
It's probably
so
best that way.
let's be
It's yeah.
realistic. Your friends and family aren't going to buy your stuff. They just aren't.
Yeah, we laugh when
No,
we laugh when our clients tell us like everyone, they're gonna buy, I got this guy down the street, he's gonna buy 10 of these from me, right? As soon as I launch, we're like, okay, sure. As soon as he takes as soon as you ask him to take out some money, we'll see what happens.
Right. No, that's not how it happens. But you're right. There was no pressure. It was a let me try it and see. And there's a playfulness about that. When people are starting businesses and their goal is to quit their job, or, to make $1 million or whatever like that, there's a lot of pressure behind that. Whereas if you're just, well, I have a skill, and I have a product and I just want to kind of see what happens. It didn't matter if it worked or not because, I
It's
was
kind of
just
like a
doing it.
passion project for you, right?
Right, right. It was a hobby. It was something I was really good at. And I just thought, well, if I could make a little bit extra money, back then, I just wanted to make enough money to put my son in T-ball. We didn't have any money. I mean, we were broke. So just putting him in T-ball in the Park District program was a stretch. So I was like, well, if I could just make a couple $100,
And
I
that's
could put him in T-ball.
expensive. Little league, lacrosse,
Yeah.
field hockey,
Yeah,
basketball. It's
yeah,
insane. It adds up.
But
it
it's
does.
that it's the whole it's interesting because like when you go into like a negotiation, like negotiating with someone who is ultra successful or ultra rich, they always have the upper hand because they don't really care, right? Like they're already rich, they don't really need your product, and you're basically at their whim. And that's sort of the attitude when you go into a business that you're trying to create wealth, or you're trying to quit your job, or you're trying to do those things. It's like all that pressure of like, I don't want to make the wrong move. I don't do things the way that I really would do it because of I don't want people thinking about me a certain way. Whereas like you went into this like, shit, if this works, it works. If it doesn't, at least I can get them in T-ball because I'm sure I can make $200, and then we'll go from there. But what actually happened from there? Like, so you went into digital and then you switched over to physical. What did that look like? What did that look like? Because there's an investment there, right? Now you have to buy all the material, and then you got to try to figure out how people are gonna like find you. So how'd that all work out?
Right. So how that happened was through a total loss of what I had built over 3 years. I had started selling those digital products on Etsy, and through a miscommunication with the Minecraft company and having a newborn, um, there was a copyright infringement filed on me.
Mm.
I think my baby was maybe 2 weeks old when it happened. And I was exhausted and I looked at the email and I was like, no, I have their permission. Like, I have an email with their permission to do what I'm doing. I'll take care of this later. Well, another week went by before I was able to look at it, and they filed another notice, and then Etsy closed my store. So at that point, I had built it up and I was making between $3,000 and $5,000 a month on Etsy. And so that was quite a devastating loss. And having a newborn and being exhausted, and it felt like losing a job or being fired, all the work I had put in, and it was just gone overnight. um, it took about a year for me to really get back to trying, because I thought, I'm never going to make this work. This is never going to work. Like, the only reason it was working was because it was on Etsy and I was being found.
Which is not the case, actually. Like Etsy is very difficult to make any money with, right? Like their algorithms will like give everybody like one order or two orders, and they get all excited that they're gonna, and then all of a sudden, like, and this is why Kevin and I, for the last 4 years of this podcast, we have been telling people over and over and over and over again, do not build your business on Amazon. Do not build your business on Etsy. Do not build your business on eBay. You want to use those for some extra money? Fine, but never build your business on a platform that someone else has control of. And you are you're the reason why we say that is because, one day you can make a $5,000 a month, and then all of a sudden someone gets to stick up their ass on Etsy or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, and they decide that you're gone. But if you build your business on your own platform and use those platforms to get the word out, they can shut them down and you just move on.
Correct.
And that is a big lesson that, like, me and my ex-business partner had a big problem with this. We had a baking blog, and she wanted to build the entire thing on YouTube. And I'm like, yo, Gretchen, we can't do that because YouTube can shut us down. No, you don't understand. This is what everybody in the baking industry is doing. No. I do understand. That's why I'm telling you, don't do it. And you are a perfect example of that, unfortunately. And I'm sorry to hear that.
Right. Actually, don't have to be sorry, because I wouldn't be where I'm at had that not happened. So bad things can turn good, right? So I was not in a good place. It was quite a dark place. I poured myself back into digital scrapbooking because that was something I had success in. And so I just worked to try and make income, because obviously we had come to count on some of my income to pay bills and whatnot. And now I have 3 children at this point. So that's the span of, about 8 years, that little story I just told. But also now I have a newborn. So, I just poured myself back into that. And I kind of, at that point, thought, I'm not going to make the party supply thing work, even though it was something I was really passionate about. And a few months went by, and it was just kind of like this nagging thought in the back of my head, like I really want to do it, and I really think I have cute things, and I really think if I could just get them in front of eyes, they would sell. Like I had proven that already, that if they were there and people could see them, that they would purchase them. And it took about a year, and I decided that I was going to try and sell on Amazon. So I have a website, and then I started attempting on Amazon. When I started on Amazon, there's no option for digital products. So I had to figure out how I was going to make it work. And at the time, I designed a few invitations and I made them fill-in style. So prior to that, they were personalized. Somebody would send me their party details. I would type it in on the file. They would get the invitation with all their party details and print it out. Amazon, the switch had to be that they were fill-in because there was no way to personalize it and do a download. And so I was like, nobody's going to buy fill-in invitations. This isn't going to work. Nobody's going to want to handwrite their invitation. So obviously there was always a negative, this isn't going to work kind of thought pattern going on in the history of my business and how I operate. But I thought I'll just try it. And again, it really didn't cost me anything because I just made the file. And when somebody ordered it, I would actually print it out at the local office store, go pick it up, cut them out, package them with envelopes, and ship them out. It was actually terrible business. It was a nightmare.
Yeah, but you know what? You made it work.
I did
And
make it work.
That's really, at the end of the day, that's all that matters, because
Right.
no one really sees what happens, like how you got it or what you did or
Right.
how inefficient the process was. They just care that they got their thing, and
Right.
we're going through that, Kevin and I, right now with this new product that we're doing. It's like we've learned over a span of 20 years that people just want the shit, right? Like you can make it look good. You can hire a big, studio to help you with the videos or whatever. But at the end of the day, people just want the thing. And it's like a really, I think, important lesson for people like you. It's like, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Like
Right.
they don't really care how you did it. They just want it.
Right. And I
funny.
do see that a lot in people starting businesses, that perfectionism of I have to have it completely figured out before I even start. And I'm like, what I started with and what it is now are complete opposites. And I couldn't have gotten where I'm at had I not gone through all those steps.
There's a process.
Right.
There's a
and you
process.
just start. You just have to start. And that's literally what I did. And
We
then
talk
it
about that a
became-
lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you went from the digital product to actual printing this out and doing all the legwork, because for us,
Right.
I'm a graphic designer too by trade. I don't do it as much anymore, but I've always thought about doing that with my wife. She did these back to school signs for the longest time. I was like, oh, how cool would it be if, we could just have people download them. But even the people around us that bought them from us is they wanted it just done for them. As soon as you say buy something from me, but you're also going to have to do this other thing, it's a whole nother story. Be like, you're going to put me to work. She's like, I'll pay extra. Just do it yourself. But with that, with the physical product aspect of it comes in a whole nother area of complication with your business. And
on my end, for sure. But in the process of all of this, remember, I started with 1 child, digital downloads, and I liked to do the extra work at that point. 2 more children later, and I'm exhausted, and I'm like, moms don't have time for this. So my business kind of evolved as my motherhood did too, in knowing what moms needed and wanted. And it just changed and ebbed from there because I had a better understanding of it, that even though maybe I liked to do little crafty projects and all of this, most people didn't have time for that.
No, and that's why they buy from you though, right? That's the
Right,
whole,
right. Well, I'm solving that problem
yeah.
now with the physical products. And once I had an understanding of that, everything else kind of fell into place. So when I was going to the office store and printing and cutting, I did that for about 6 months until I said, you know, at this point, people are willing to wait about a week to get their invitations and they're paying shipping. What if they were Prime? You know, what if they could get them in 2 days and they were there? I bet you I would sell more. And so it was about 5 years ago that I invested in my first inventory purchase. It was about 400 packs of invitations. It cost me about $750 and I was terrified. And I thought, what if I'm wrong? You know, what if I can't pay this money back? Because that was too big of an expense back then for me. You know, three little children, and I'm not making really much money. And here I am investing $750. And I know a lot of people go into these e-commerce businesses, you know, investing five or 10,000 or even $25,000. But I was just at $750 trying to do this for the least amount of money possible to kind of test it out and see if it worked. And it was 5 years ago, January, that I shipped in my first set of invitations, and I was right. They flew off the shelf.
Especially when you're
So,
selling something that has like a design to it. It's a very subjective
Well,
thing.
it's also proprietary. Like it's
Right.
really, people aren't really knocking it off.
It's like buying,
right. I mean,
like,
they are,
They
you
are,
know,
but they can't knock you off, right? Like it's
they
you, right?
can,
But it's
can.
your, yeah, I mean, it's your, right. But you know, the knockoffs never really do as well as the original. It's just the way it is. But you know, it's funny. I want to go back to what you said about the $750 because Kevin and I own a 7-figure business. We have a agency, a digital marketing agency. We have this podcast that makes us money, and we're starting this new business. And like, if I paid $750 on something right now, it wouldn't change my life. But I'm on Amazon, like, okay, I could save 20 here, I could save 30 there. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why don't I just buy it? Like, why am I wasting time trying to save $50 or $20 or $30? Like, this is an investment into a business. Like, and I'm
Yep.
playing this stupid game, you know, and it's just like, it's funny because it's not, you thought it was because you didn't have money, but it's more of how we're wired as like people.
I didn't have any money. Let me tell you, we were broker than broke. 3 little children, barely paying the bills. So I didn't have money. There was no extra at that time.
Right. So that's much scarier than what I'm trying to do. Like, I'm like,
Correct.
I'm like not pressing the Amazon button for like $200. And I'm like,
yeah,
what's
I got to
going
listen
on
to him
here?
every day. I got this option. It's $200. He flew up. He moved to South Carolina a couple of months ago. He flew up to New Jersey to pick up some audio equipment that he could have bought on Amazon for $200.
Right.
Now,
It's
what's your time worth? No, I
well,
mean, my
and
mindset has changed over the years. But there is still that piece of me that is totally cheap. Like, what is the cheapest possible way I can do this? And it came in handy when COVID hit because that was, again, the thing. I'm making $0. How can I try out a new idea that's not going to cost me money? Because I don't have any to spare.
so
Because
what
if
did you
this
do?
doesn't work, I don't have any more money. So it serves me well to be kind of a cheapie and do things as inexpensively as possible to test ideas without investing a ton. But also the pressure of like, I don't really have this money. If we don't sell it, how am I going to pay this bill? I mean, that's a good motivator too. Make sure it's going to work. But
Yeah, and when you're bootstrapping, it's good to be that way, right? Because you have to be resourceful. And that's kind of where you build everything is being resourceful, right? Like
right,
it's when it's when you're like Kevin and I were, this is like our 7th business that we have right now, where you don't have to be. It's really where you get into trouble because now you're 5,000-6,000 into in the hole, and it's you want to buy some Facebook ads, you want to do these things, and now you're 10,000 in a hole. So I mean, I think it's a good lesson to learn, and you figure out ways to do things more efficiently that way. And now when you have a business, I want to get into not exactly what you're making, but like generally, just so people have an understanding about how big your business is. But when you then have to pass along what you're doing to someone else, they can't like pull anything over your any wool over your eyes because you've been there and you know what it's like. So we're going through that right now because now we have about, I don't know, 5 employees or 4 employees or something like that. And they'll come to us with problems. We're like, no, we used to do that. We know exactly how to do it. Like, so it's a good lesson, but let's get into, because I think when people go into e-commerce, they think that they need, like Kevin and I, our business, is actually down this year, but we're as profitable. So we learned how to spend less. Even though we did get more staff, we spent $1 million on Facebook ads last year, and we didn't do that. I'm sorry, the year before we didn't do that. Yeah, we didn't do that this past year. But we did make the same, profit. So, we're learning that side of it. It's like, okay, how do we now have more employees and still be profitable? So talk to me. So my point was, like, people go into these businesses thinking they need to make like a $10 million business. Really, if you can create a 7-figure business, you can live a really, really good life. You don't need a $10 million business. And I get it. Silicon Valley makes everybody think that, like, oh, if I'm not doing 10 million a year, at the end of the day, it's like, for me personally, I don't know what I would do with all that money. I mean, people with a lot of money, they just donate it. So, like, okay, like, that's great. I'd love to be able to do that. But if I can make myself $500,000 a year, if I can make myself $300,000 a year, that is plenty.
It is plenty.
It is plenty.
It is plenty.
I think if people went into it thinking like, look, I don't need to make this a $10 million business. If I can just make it $1 million business or a high 6-figure business, I can live really well. So why don't you tell us how, like that, how does that relate to you? Like, is that true? Do you find that to be true? Do you find that to be, because the more money we made didn't necessarily mean the more money was in our pockets. And we learned that the hard way. So.
And there comes a point where the more money you make does not change your life anymore and does not add any more happiness to your life. You hit a threshold where
they say it's $60,000 a year, which I don't know how that's possible. But if they say, if like,
not where I live.
Yeah, right.
Not where I live. Certain parts of the country, absolutely. We've talked about moving out of where we're at because the cost of living is so high.
South Carolina.
Yeah, well, I might, because
I love it here.
It's a little bit of a crazy state, and the snow I could do without.
Yes, I came from New York, so trust me.
Yeah, so basically when I sent that first inventory in and it started to do really well, I doubled down on what was working. So it was working. I think at that point maybe I had 20 different invitation designs to pick from. And I thought, well, if I'm making X amount with 20 invitations, I could double it if I had 40. Right?
Simple
so
math.
I made 20 more invitations. Right? So, and that's kind of how I did it for the first couple years. I thought, well, if I have 100 invitations and I'm making X amount, if I had 200 invitations. And so I just would double what I was doing. And then I thought, well, what's another product that's similar to invitations that, with the system that I had created already that we could easily fit in, and thank you cards was the next one. So at that point, I just took my top selling invitations and I created matching thank you cards. So if you had an octopus themed birthday party, you could have octopus themed thank you cards.
That is just amazing. You can upsell them, right? Like,
right.
On the way out.
Another product.
This is another product. And we talk about this. You make more money from your current customers than you do getting new customers. People don't understand that. Everybody wants to scale to, oh my God, if I could figure out how to get people who don't know me to buy, I can make this business whatever I want it to be. But actually, that might be true, but you're not going to be more profitable. You're more profitable when you sell to people that you've already paid for with the first order, so to speak.
Right. Or increasing your order value.
There's a whole. Exactly. Yeah. So I love your naivete though, because right. I'm a marketer and I can tell you that logic for a beginner makes sense, but for me as a marketer doesn't. Because just because you sell 100 doesn't mean you can sell 200. Just because you sell 200 doesn't mean you can sell 300. And I love the fact that you didn't know any better. And that's what it takes most of the time.
Yes. But also let's talk about the fact that people like you are out there teaching people how to start businesses, and you're teaching it from your expertise, not from a beginner standpoint and a beginner viewpoint. So these beginners come in and they think, I have to do it one way, or I have to invest this much money, or this is how I do it. If I were to teach you what I'm doing right now in my business, you would think you never could get there. But if I tell you what I was thinking when I was first starting, you could do it because that's how I did it. So the trouble out there with people wanting to start a business and learning is they're learning from people who are experts and have honed the system, and they're not coming at it from the very beginner, I have no money, how can I make this work kind of mindset. And that's the difference.
Well,
Is
there's no
right.
money in that. I can't make money from someone who doesn't have money. So that's the problem. But the truth of the matter is people would be much better served. Like I created a Facebook ads course, right? And I took a different approach. Instead of like the rest of these gurus that say, oh, I spend $1 million a day, I get back $2 million. It's only a 2x return. That's how I'm making $1 million. Like I took a different approach to it. I said, look, these are all the things I wish I knew when I started. I wish I knew how to recognize when an ad was working and when it wasn't working. I wish I knew when to start scaling and when not to start scaling. I wish I knew how long I should give an ad to work before I turned it. So I just took all these things and I was like, okay, what would I want? What would I like to have known when I first started? And that's how I built the course. And that's where I think people would be much better served is like, my buddy used to tell me you can't teach experience. And it's true. It's like, no matter how good I am at business, I can't teach that to someone with no experience. I have 20 years of experience, right?
Ever wonder how those e-commerce brands you admire do it? How they know just the right message to send to the right people at the right time? Guess what? It's not experience. They have the right data and the right tools. They have Klaviyo. Klaviyo's data-driven marketing automation platform is sophisticated enough to power those legendary campaigns from the brands you admire, but they made it simple, easy, and fast enough for anyone to use. Klaviyo helps brands easily create personalized multi-channel marketing campaigns using your most powerful asset, your customers' data. Klaviyo integrates with all leading e-commerce platforms, helping you use your customer data in real time to send more relevant emails and SMS automations. Plus, building a marketing campaign is drag and drop easy. You can get started with your first campaign in under an hour and easily build from there with Klaviyo's best performing templates. Klaviyo gives you all the power of an enterprise marketing automation platform and none of the complexity, so you can compete with the big guys. No wonder more than 65,000 brands can't get enough. To get started with a free trial of Klaviyo, visit klaviyo.com/uncensored. That's KLAVIYO.com/uncensored.
And you have to go through it. You have to. And, that's where people quit. When they get into the, I lost my Etsy store, or I put this up for sale and it's not selling. I guess I picked a bad product. That's when people decide that they're going to quit because it's just not working and they think that they're doing something wrong. And the truth of the matter is it's been like failure after failure after failure over the past 6 years. And I just decided that I'm just going to keep going like a psycho person and not worry about all the failures along the way, right? So that's really the difference in why it's successful and why somebody wouldn't be successful. And the only true failure is if you stop working at it.
The only difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is the successful people just didn't give up. They're not any smarter. I mean, I'm just as dumb now as I was, 5-7 years ago. I just learned not to give up. And you kind of learn what works and what doesn't work. Kevin and I just started this other business with somebody else, this like a marriage type thing. And the first month we did like $8,000, and it was like the first month we started it, but it was only because we have 20 years of failing. Like that's really that we knew.
We talk about our 7-figure business as Jason mentioned earlier, and when people hear it, I'm sure they have that same thought. Be like, "How did you do it so quickly?" Be like, "No. Like we had we did a baking blog course. We started several e-commerce stores.
This podcast didn't make any money for 3 years.
Yeah, we're going on 6 years of this podcast.
We joke about it all the time because people will walk into our story at this point and they're like, "Oh, overnight success." I'm like, "Yes, it only took 16 years."
Right.
And I think that is, important for people to understand too. When you realize that failure is literally a daily thing and a part of the process, then it doesn't bother you as much. If you think that it's just success after success.
And you, yeah.
Right. If you're
Yeah, that's
expecting
awesome.
it.
Sorry, you froze.
That
You
you're
froze for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
okay. Yeah. That, you're just a
Yeah, sorry.
problem solver. So about 3 years ago, my husband, I convinced him to quit his job and work for me.
Wow.
And at that
So what
point,
is?
you
Sorry.
want to know
Go
what
ahead.
that's like?
No, 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 no. No, I want it. I want it. No, no, I didn't. But sorry, I know how that's like, and I never want to do it. But um, no, I want to finish. I want you to finish your thought. Sorry.
At that point, the business was at about 650,000 a year. So going
Okay.
back to talking about, you don't really need to make as much money as you think to have a really beautiful lifestyle. Um, I was making his salary and then some.
Yeah, I
So
mean 600 grand, if you're even if you're doing like 10-15%, I mean, it's still like almost two people having $100,000 salary. I
yeah,
mean,
and our profit margin is between 30 and 40% because we
right.
sell paper.
Nice.
Yeah.
So um, we were making a decent income. And it was a tough decision for him to make because obviously that's a scary thing to do, to quit.
Guaranteed money compared
Right.
to not, yeah, right.
I mean, it's not guaranteed, right? They could have fired him the next day.
I say that all the time, but my
Yeah.
buddy Kevin over there is not of the same mindset.
Yeah,
Actually,
I think there
Nothing.
is no
yeah.
guarantees,
No, never.
and I trust myself and my abilities more than I trusted corporate America to keep my husband employed. So he quit, and again, I was right. By having him work on the business, we quickly grew. So because I had his help, and he could start working on some things, and I wasn't doing it 100% by myself, obviously we were able to start growing a little faster. So fast forward 3 years, last year we crossed the 2 million mark in sales,
Wow.
and it's still growing. So we've been
That's
growing year over year. I keep adding new products and new designs. After thank you cards came stickers, um, circle stickers, mini candy bar stickers, kiss stickers. Um, and I still have ideas. So I stay with the trends on the parties. Like, that really is just my passion, and I'm just really good at it. My designs are really cute, and they sell, and we're filling a need. So moms are getting adorable themed party supplies delivered straight to their door, ready to use.
yeah.
So what does your marketing look like? I mean, you talked about like increasing your inventory and bringing in new products. How do you get people to know about them?
A lot of our business is on Amazon. So the majority of our sales are there currently, but we do have our own website, and we do a variety of things. So we blog, there's email marketing, there's Pinterest, there's Facebook, and honestly, some things work sometimes, and then they don't work other times. And sometimes it's really successful, and sometimes it's not successful at all. So I haven't even found something that works 100% of the time. So we had a really successful Facebook ad campaign in 2020 for our teacher postcards. And I mean, the sales were through the roof. And then I haven't really replicated the sales the way that was. So I just feel like sometimes it was timing and product. It was the right product at the right time. And that's why it did so well. But our Facebook ads are hit or miss. So sometimes they'll do really well, and then sometimes I get nothing from it. So I'm not the one to speak to about awesome marketing, but
Yeah, I mean, I was
I can tell you
curious.
about awesome products.
I have to say that I have to give you credit for something, because you like knew that you needed more products. And that's interesting, because most people fall in love with their first product and just think that, like, when things start slowing down, like, oh, I just got to figure out how to sell this thing differently or better. Or when really, if you look at like one of our clients is like, one of our ex-clients is like, I heard now they're doing like almost $200 million. Kevin, by the way, what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
My aunt told me that they doubled their sales. But anyway, they're like $100 million business, and they do have one hero product, but all their sales don't come from that one product. That product brings everybody in, and then they sell all these other things. So people, so that's kind of how, you grow a big business, is like, okay, you get people in with your one hero product, but now you got to have these other products to sell them to start, growing that revenue to the numbers where you're seeing. There's no way that's going to last forever with one product. It's just not.
And for us, the strategy is we don't have hero products. I have a category. Invitations are by far our best category. But if you dig down and you look into all the individual invitations, there's not one standout. So if one gets copied or if one gets taken down or whatever, we don't miss it.
Do you see?
So we're making a lot of money by selling a few of a lot of different things. So I don't sell, some of my invitations only sell 100 a month.
And do you see a lot of your orders coming from people who have bought from you in the past in most cases?
Yeah, there's a lot of repeat customers, especially so COVID totally changed the business for me because we were a party supply company and people were not allowed to party. So we had a 95% drop in sales overnight. So I lost the business again overnight. So that's the second time if you're keeping count. And I currently say, like, Lord, please don't let me prove that I'm resilient ever again. Like, I've proven it. I am. Can we just move forward with a little bit more ease? But there's no party supplies. And that's all I had to sell. That's all I was selling. And so I think the first 2 weeks of the pandemic, I did what everybody did and laid on the couch and watched Tiger King or whatever was going on at that time. But my brain was working because I was like, I don't know how long this is going to last, and I don't know when party supply sales are going to come back. And if we don't sell product, we don't make money. So what are we going to do? And I just started creating, and I started creating new products. The first thing I created was like a change of plan postcard because of all the events people had planned that they could no longer have. So weddings, big celebrations, things like that. And I kept going, and I think I probably created 10 new kinds of products, stationery products, thank you cards, postcards, coffee mugs. Like, I'm a designer, so I just started designing things, see what stuck. And the one thing that hit right at the right time was I created a set of postcards for teachers to send to their students. So kids were home, they're trying to figure out this Zoom classroom thing, and everybody was in a panic and missing each other. And I just had cute little teacher postcards that had little puns on them that said, like, one of them had a little piggy on it, and it said, I miss my students' pig time. And it was a little postcard that they could just fill out quickly, address it to their student, and a little bit of happiness arrived in the mail. And I literally saved my business with these teacher postcards. Turned it around. Our 2020 sales were higher than our 2019. It was insane. Bring it forward to 2021, nobody wants postcards anymore. And we just recalled about 10,000 units of inventory that wasn't moving and wasn't selling. So again, it's just, how are you moving with what's going on and not staying stuck with the fact that, like, no, I made these postcards. No, I printed these postcards. No, I need to sell these postcards. It was like, these are sitting there, they're not selling, they're actually causing us more trouble because we have to keep track of them. Let's just get rid of them. And so I have 10,000 packs of postcards sitting in my garage currently, waiting to be donated to a lovely organization that will use them. And we're moving forward. But had I held on to that and felt like I have to make these postcards sell, like, why aren't they selling? We would not.
Wasted energy.
Moving forward.
Yeah. It's a lot of wasted energy too.
Right. So, it's just been going with the flow and dealing with the failures along the way and dealing with the things that don't work and the different things that are crashing and burning all along the way. And it's literally been 2 straight years of it. But we're still doing well. And, we're still growing because we're willing to change and we're willing to just figure out what's working. And then we continue to do that.
And you couldn't do that with a $10 million business. With a $10 million business, you can't stop and start and move and change everything, right? Like with a $1 million business or a $2 million business, you can. And that is, I think, there's this constant debate, like, do you want freedom? Do you want to, be a prisoner to your business, or do you want to whatever? And I think when you have a business like yours, like, yeah, you're going to work more. I mean, you love it though, which is great, but you also are small enough to be very nimble, to be able to change directions very quickly, to try new things, to, you're not restricted by red tape. You can just do whatever you have to do. And I think there is a lesson in that as well, where I think like a big 20 or 10 or $30 million company, they can't really do that. So that's awesome. I will tell you this. You need to figure out how to grow your email list because you probably can, if you're not, I don't know what you're doing from email, but our email list brings in like 30 to 40% of our revenue. So, do it.
That's definitely the focus. That's definitely the focus this year, and to grow the website sales. And they are increasing, which is good. I don't think we'll ever be able to touch the sales that we see on Amazon, but we can have a good portion of it be from our own website, which will be great. But I think we're at a sweet spot in the size of the business. It's just starting to hit a size where we're like, it's getting hard to manage.
Yeah.
But our income level is great. So I'm not motivated to make any more money.
Yeah.
Which I know. I'm just not. We have all we need. I'm able to pay my people bonuses, and pay them well for what they do. And, we're able to go on vacations, and I'm saving for college, and everything is fine. I don't think I would want it to be a $10 million business because, like you said, it's really a lifestyle. My children are still young. I have a 16-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And I still want to be there for them. I still want to pick them up from school. If they're sick one day, I don't want to have to answer to anybody. I don't want to have to be at the office. I want to live my life. If I want to take a nap on a Thursday afternoon, then I want to do that. And so we've really built the business around freedom, for me and my husband.
And that is the thing. It's funny. So Kevin knows what I'm going to tell him. So Kevin owned this agency that we have now he's been a part of it since 2003. And like his son would play basketball around the corner from our office, literally 3 miles away. And so he would tell me like, yeah, Max has soccer today at 12. Oh, too bad you can't be there. He's like, it's close. It's like 3 miles. Why aren't you there? Like, no, I got to work. Like, dude, you can go get a job working for someone and they can tell you not to go. But if you're going to create or have the stress of owning a business, these are the things you have to do. This is why you do this business, not so that you can have a job. You want to work 80 hours a week. That's okay. But you got to take the hour out and go watch your damn son play soccer at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. That's the point of this. So my buddy over there, because he's kind of like a workaholic, he used to be, he used to stare at his computer for like 15, 16 hours a day. He just wouldn't leave. But there's no reason to have a business if you're not going to do that. For me personally.
I say to him all the time, like I'll text him during the day and I'll be like out driving one to field hockey, one to, basketball. And I'm like, I just don't know how people do this that have regular jobs, that work like corporate jobs, who like, they can't leave. They can't just take as many days off as they can. And plus you're creating your own staff. Have you put your kids to work yet?
Yes.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Minimum wage work.
They do help out. And I'll tell you a funny story about that. The boys, they like to play video games and they want to buy whatever in the video game. And for whatever reason, I go back to I'm a cheapskate. I'm like, you're not spending money on things that don't exist. Not happening.
Robux.
Right. That's what they want. If they want to spend their money on Robux, I'll pay them $5 an hour. If they're willing to spend it on real items in the real world, I'll pay them 10. I can't tell you how many times they've worked for $5 an hour. So
you can pay them. Money. Yeah, I mean, you could pay them up to $12,000 a year. This is something, it may work. I mean, something to talk to your accountant about. But you can pay them up to $12,000 a year tax-free. And I don't want to give you tax advice, but basically,
not financial advice.
Yeah, basically they don't get the 12,000, but it's taken out of the business.
Yeah, it's like we can chat about that.
Yeah, Kevin and I don't do it because we don't have that type of business. Our businesses are like dollars for hours, and then
Right.
our other businesses not really something that our kids can do. But you can, I don't know exactly in this, like I said, this is not tax advice, but I think you could pay your kids up to 12,000 a year tax free. So if you wanted to do that and save for their college, you could pay them 1,000 each a month, throw it in a college fund, and there's no tax on it because it's $12,000.
Yeah,
So something definitely to look into.
Man,
for
teaching
sure.
kids about money is really getting tricky. Like it's in this world of like cryptocurrencies and Robux
Getting
and
tricky to
everything
teach
else.
my wife about
Yeah.
it.
Like when we were
Well,
growing up, it's like
and
you have
work
this much
ethic.
money, you pay this for this thing. Now it's like my Max will come in and be like, I bought this new hat. Like, okay, let me see it. Be like, well, it's on my Roblox character. Like, what are you talking about?
Yep.
It's fake. It's not even a real
Well,
thing.
and work ethic, especially for my older son, if he wants to buy something, he calculates how many hours he has to work in order to make that money. And I gave him a project to do. I'm like, I need this group of, letters to Santa stuffed, like these packages need to be put together. And he's literally moving at a snail's pace. Like he's just sitting there listening to music and stuffing. And I'm like, you're stuffing like 40 an hour. I could give that to somebody else and they could do 200. Like I need this done.
His
But
pay
he's like,
gets
30-year-olds do
cut.
this.
Tell-
30-year-olds do the same thing.
Yeah, we got 30-year-olds
oh,
do the same thing. But what you got to do is you say, like, look, this is going to take 20 hours. Anything over 20 hours, you get paid half. So it's $250 an hour instead of $5 an hour.
I learned from my 16-year-old that, I can't pay you hourly, I'm gonna pay you per project because
Yeah.
he's taking advantage of his own mom. But,
Right. Unknowingly.
again, everything is a learning experience. And, as long as you don't get stuck in something that didn't work and you just, okay, that didn't work and move forward, that's literally how I've made it work. And that's how I've made it grow, is that anytime something's gone wrong, I just go, okay, well, that didn't work. Let's keep going. And there was a time that I remember my husband looked at me and he goes, most people would have quit by now.
Well, you made lemonade out of lemons, right?
Right.
Is that
Because
the
I
thing?
think most people wouldn't keep doing this. And I'm like, well, I know I can make it work. I know I can do it. And it was just that determination and that unwillingness to quit over the years that has got us where we are.
And
And
I'm
that's
sorry. It's nice not having to worry about paying your bills.
it is. It's life changing because I told you we were super broke.
That's all that matters. If you can
We were
find a
super
way,
broke.
yeah, if you can find a way just to pay your bills through your business, you don't need to make $20 million. You will be happy. Just Kevin and our wives and our cars, like they all come out of the business. Our phones come out of the business. Our internet comes out of the business. They're like, I talk to my neighbors and they're like, how much is your internet? I'm like, yeah, I don't really know. Like, what do you mean you don't know? I'm like, my partner and I, we run it through our business because we work from home, and like, you don't even know what you pay. I'm like, no, it's just paid by the bookkeeper. Like, I don't, like, how much is your car? Like, it's somewhere around 5.9. I don't really know. Like, what do you mean? It's like a
No,
big bill. I'm like, yeah, our business pays
it doesn't matter anymore. You hit this threshold of you can afford it, and you're not paying attention like you used to. I'm not calling the cable company to reduce my bill by
for
$20
$10.
a month
It's like a waste
like I
of
used to
time.
do.
Right.
But I bought concert tickets for me and a friend, and I put it on the credit card, and I didn't think anything of it. And like 3 months later, she's like, I gotta pay you for that. And I was like, oh, you haven't yet? And she's like,
Yeah,
it was like $400. How do you not miss this? And I was like, I didn't even know it was gone,
And that's
And
the thing.
it's a beautiful place to be. It's a beautiful place to be,
It is.
especially when back in the day, my husband used to park the car that was the furthest behind in car payments at the front of the driveway in our one car
So nobody
driveway,
can take it.
so it couldn't be towed overnight. So to go from that to, we bought $1 million house last year, and, our bills are completely covered and then some. It's a dream, and I'm never not grateful for the fact that I've built it. Every day is a look around and wonder, like, look at what I created. Look at what you can do. And I have no special skills that other people do not possess. There's nothing magical going on.
You didn't give up.
I just didn't give up.
That's
I
a special
just didn't
skill,
quit.
though. That is a special
Patience,
skill.
patience.
But
too.
everybody
Pace-
could do that.
Everybody could
Everybody
do
can do
it, but
that.
it's a skill. I mean, it's the number one thing I talk to like my friends who want like everybody now. Obviously, we have a similar story to you. We were all broke, and now Kevin bought $1 million home, but I can't quite afford it.
I
even though we
rescued Jason out of the gutter,
yeah, right,
saved him.
But I forgot what I was gonna say.
We have a similar story.
Yeah, we have a similar story to you where like, we kind of like didn't have anything and now we're doing pretty well. And I haven't looked at my bank account probably in a week or two. Like
Yeah.
it's like, and I feel like the same way. It's like, our lives have changed so much in these past like 3 years that, I'm grateful that I have freedom. I'm grateful that I don't worry about my bills. And honestly, like the next thing that Kevin and I are working on is a passion project because that's like the only thing that we don't have. But yeah, it's such a nice place to be in. I don't need to be, I moved to South Carolina because I was paying $5,000 a month for my house up in New York. And now I'm paying $2,000 a month for a house just a little smaller. My taxes went from $20,000 a year to $1,500 a year. Like
South Carolina sounds lovely.
Insane.
oh my God. And it's the kids are going to school, no masks on. Like it's like
yeah,
that's a whole nother story.
it
But
is.
the point is,
But
that
the point is like the amount of money you think you need to make is not what
even
it takes.
close because you listen to the wrong people. You listen to people like what the hell is that guy's name? The guy.
My son is obsessed with Elon Musk.
Well, Elon Musk, and then you
I
have
was
the
like,
other
you're
guy.
never going to make as much money as Elon Musk, and you don't
need to. Elon Musk.
No.
Think about Elon Musk. Like he sold everything. He's like, I don't need. My buddy is worth $60 million, right? And he had this like 25,000 square foot house that he just sold, and he's a builder, so he built it himself. It only cost him like, I think it cost him like $1 million to build, and he sold it for like 6 million or whatever it is, right? He makes 60 million. He's worth 60 million. I said to him like 2 months ago, I'm like, so what are you gonna do now? Because he lives in this like little house now. Like him and his wife live in like this, like I don't know, it's like 3,000 square foot, right? So I said, what are you gonna do? I was like, are you gonna buy a big house? He's like, what am I gonna do with it? Like I sit in one room and watch sports. I go to the kitchen and eat. I go to bed. He's like, I need a toilet, a refrigerator, and a TV. He's like, I was like, then why are you making all this money? He's like, I just enjoy what I'm doing. Like that's really all it is. It's like, so it's.
I mean,
it's
I
really,
definitely have goals with the money making in the future. Should it increase drastically? I mean,
I give
there are
back,
things I'm passionate about.
donate.
Right. I'd absolutely love to fund my kids' choir organization that they're a part of in purchasing their own building. Like I would love to do something like that. So there are things to do with ridiculous amounts of money, but I'm not motivated to make it personally.
No, and these people with all this money are usually the ones that aren't the happiest because
That's true.
their
Right.
entire. I just saw a lady on Facebook or Instagram story. She's like, look at any really successful people that others admire, and only one part of their life they have their shit together. The rest of their life is a complete mess. They don't see their families. They don't see their kids. They don't talk to their kids. Their kids don't like them. Their wives or husbands, like the rest of their lives are a mess. And we like look up to them like they've had this all figured out because they're rich. And at the end of the day, that's not what makes people happy. What makes people.
You don't want to turn your kids into jerks either. You want them to stay humble and like understand where they came from, right?
Right.
I feel like a lot of these rich kids are just like jerks.
He's not getting a car. That's not happening.
I was thinking about this earlier. I mean, it's crazy because like you think that you want to build this nest egg for your kids, right? Like you put all this pressure on yourself to make all this money for your kids. And I was just listening to Tom Hanks's son, who said his mother and father gave him nothing. And I said to myself, why am I putting this pressure on myself to have this money for my kids when we all have to figure this out on our own? Like, why am I doing this to myself? Like, I want them to have a good life while I'm responsible for them. But at the end of the day, I'm never going to hand them $1 million. I'm never going to hand them $5 million. Even if I had it, I wouldn't do that because they have their own journey to go on. And it just made me think that like we put ourselves through all this pressure. And at the end of the day, it's not a good idea to give your kid $1 million or $2 million or $5 million. So they got to figure it out on their own. And that's
That's
Tom
true.
Hanks' son. Like
Yeah.
Tom Hanks has
Well,
worked
and our most valuable asset is time. And
time.
everything that we do revolves around time with the family. So we work to make sure that we're present when the kids are around, that we're going on family vacations, that we're spending as much time together as a family as possible, and nothing else matters. And that's been from day one. That was from when my husband was working in corporate America. He would take jobs that were closer to home so that he could come home and see them at their sports practice. And he could go to their choir concerts and he could do those things. And he could have easily taken a job in the city and been gone 12 hours a day. And we wouldn't have ever been broke.
Mm-hmm.
But we
Yeah.
made conscious decisions to keep him close to home. He took a lower salary so that he could be there. And that's what it's about now for us. And I'm lucky that my husband is my best friend and we work beautifully together. It's probably a whole nother podcast on how to work with your spouse, but
That's
Yeah, it
rare
is.
too. That can be really
It is
difficult.
it
rare.
is
I don't
very
like
rare.
Kevin.
Yeah.
It's very rare, but I absolutely adore my husband. He adores me, and we love spending time together. And we do different parts of the business, so he does what he's good at, and I do what I'm good at, and we don't cross that.
Yeah.
He
That's
likes
awesome.
charts and graphs, and I like rainbows. So I'm like, when you show me a chart and graph, I'll know it's a good one if it's in rainbow order.
Have you seen it rainbows? Right.
And if it's not, then I have no idea what any of it means.
Yeah. And
But he
that
loves to show me his graphs.
being present is so important. My son yesterday asked me at like, I don't know, it was like, I don't remember the time, 3:30 or 3 o'clock. Dad, maybe it was 4. I don't remember. Dad, come outside and shoot some hoops with me. And it's just like, yeah.
Did you clock out? You didn't tell me you were taking off in the afternoon.
Right. Yeah. Right. But no, I mean, that's like the thing. It's like you can do that. And that's the point. And I don't think enough people get into business for the right reason. They get into it because they all want to be rich and they think that like
Correct.
somehow is going to make them happy. But really, we live pretty damn good lives, and we're not. I'm not a multi-millionaire. I mean, my businesses make 7 figures, multi 7 figures, and we make money. But like, I don't have a multi-million dollars in the bank, and I'm pretty happy.
Same.
Like,
I don't have a fancy car.
yeah,
No.
that's a whole nother story.
That's what you
Yeah,
want.
well, it's okay. Some people like fancy cars.
Yeah.
I don't care, but for us, it's about freedom, owning our time,
Owning your
and
time,
nobody having a say in our lives
but yourself.
besides us.
That's cool.
But we congratulations, Amanda. This is like one of those feel good stories, and I think a lot of people can learn. I mean, we tend to talk about a lot of tactics and techniques and strategies, but I think like at the end of the day, the most important one is just perseverance and not giving up, because you figure things out through the struggle, right? You learn how to do things the right way. And I tell Kevin, or not to Kevin, but I tell people this a lot all the time. We have 70,000 people on our email list right now and it's been much more. We've gotten rid of a lot of people, but the point is like, we can send an email out today at 70,000 subscribers and make $5 or $6 or $7,000 with one email. We couldn't do that 3 years ago with 100 people on the email list. The only way you can go from 100 people to 70,000 people is time. Like, that's it, right? Like, time. Like, I don't care if it's 5 minutes. There's still time that you have to go through the steps. You have to go through the process. And a lot of
But
people
you
want to
said 3 years, right? 3 years?
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
not really that
no.
much time either.
No, but it took me
your life
20
can drastically change in just a few years. And
in
people
a day. It could change in a day.
No.
I was sued and lost all my income 7 years
Well,
ago from my
yes.
business partner, and my life changed. I lost
Yes.
everything in a matter of a day. So,
But you can grow something amazing in not as long as you think.
and that's right. But
Yeah,
also,
so you're right. Yes, it could change for the worse. Obviously, I lost my business twice, so I do know the feeling. So
but I did what you did. Like, and I laughed when you said this, but I tell Kevin this all the time because I lost everything. I lost my house. I claimed bankruptcy. I couldn't pay for my son to like have food. Like, I had to borrow money from everybody. But you know what? I wouldn't be sitting right here if that didn't happen. Like, I'd still have a blog that did $20,000 a month rather than multiple businesses doing seven figures plus. So like I can't really complain. It was tough, but I learned.
right.
So
Cool. Awesome story, Amanda. Thank you so much.
Thank
There's
you.
that half
What-
hour. That
Before
half hour.
before we go on, we haven't even talked about like how people see your stuff and where to go.
Oh, well, amandacreation.com. There's no S at the end of that. It's just amandacreation.com, and you can see all my fun party supplies and stationery. We're on Pinterest, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram if you want to see pretty photos of it too.
Cool. Thank you so
Awesome.
much,
And
Amanda.
Amanda's moving to South Carolina.
I might.
This is, let me tell you something. If you want a state that you don't feel like the government is in it, this is where to come. I see like a cop a week, and my taxes are like $119 a month. Like, so
I told my husband last night, no joke, I said, Illinois has until fall to figure this out. And if it's the same shit going on in the fall, I'm out. I'm out. So they've got till the fall. So we'll
Yeah.
see what happens. But
My
we live in
family
a
loves
very
it.
strange area.
nah, don't you? Yeah, we do too. We did, or Kevin does, and
still
I
do.
did.
Yeah.
I
Going
did.
through
I
it.
mean, Kevin tells me these horror stories about like his kids, like, and I'm like, yeah, you know, somebody has COVID here. They got to stay out for 5 days, and then they go back to school. Like, that's it. Like, that's all they got to do is like. So anyway, whole other story. I don't want to get political here, but thank you so much, and congratulations on all the success. I really commend you for what you've done. A lot of people would not have stuck it through, and you know, you are a testament to just working hard and figuring it out.
That's true. And not quitting.
Yeah.
I
Thank you.
credit that to being the only reason. I'm successful.
That is the only reason, right? I
Only
agree.
reason.
Right.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Thanks,
You're
Amanda.
welcome.
Wow, we stayed on we stayed on with her for a long time after we got off the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, we told her it was going to be a half hour, and it was like an hour and a half.
Yeah, we were on total for almost over 2
2
hours
hours.
with her. She's
Yeah.
a really nice lady, really great story, and you know,
I'm
we
gonna
have
get
a
her
lot.
moved
We
to-
have a lot of things in common.
Yeah, I'm going to get her to move to South Carolina.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, lots of fun.
All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for listening. As always, you can check us out at ecommerceuncensored.com. Text us your questions, comments, anything, 844-643-0745. And we'll talk to you guys real soon.
Later.
Attention e-commerce founders, entrepreneurs, side hustlers, marketers, and growth hackers. If you're working around the clock to build your dream e-commerce business, you need an e-commerce marketing platform that works just as hard as you do. That means you need Klaviyo. With Klaviyo, you'll delight customers and drive revenue at the same time. With personalized email and SMS marketing campaigns, you can design and send in minutes. For more, visit klaviyo.com/uncensored. That's KLAVIYO.com/uncensored.